In this video, my goal is going to be that we can figure out the best way to set up basic mixture problems using a table, and then we're going to do an example. So we'll actually look at it in a table, and then we'll look at it as an equation. So going from the table to the equation. So the way that this is set up is that we have two parts. Our first part is dealing with the first part of the mixture. So whether it be um, one kind of a coffee bean or a 20% solution or those kinds of things. This is going to be the first part. And then the next thing that we look at is the cost or the percent of the solution, percent of the solution, so how much of it is acid, how much of it is salt, how much of it is sugar, or the cost per pound, kind of the rate with that. The amount, another way we could look at that is the quantity. And then the total is going to be the cost or the percent multiplied by the amount, and that's going to give you the total. So then you look at and you do the same thing for the part 2. You take the cost or the percent multiplied by the amount, and the total is going to be how much sugar or how much acid or how much it's going to be the total cost if you're dealing with the cost here. And then the mixture will oftentimes, it depends. If it's the cost, then it'll be a mixture, like you want to find a $5 per pound mixture or whatever. With the percent, you might be dealing with finding a 40% solution after you've mixed these two. And then you have an amount. And again, you'll take the amount multiplied by the cost or the percent, and that'll give you your total. Now, the thing with the amount is if they give you one of these parts here, so say this was like 5 pounds, and then this one was X, this is going to be the sum of these, so this would be 5 plus X. Sometimes what they'll do is they'll give you the mixture total, and then you're actually going to need to take away. So for example, let's say that there was a total of 15 pounds of coffee, and we know that the part 1 was 7 pounds. This one would be 15 minus 7, or 8 pounds total. So that's one of those areas where you need to just be aware of how it's set up and the information that they're giving you. So you could just plug in what you know, and then whatever's missing, if you need to go from the mixture total up, you'll probably be subtracting. If you have the part 1 and the part 2, then you'll be adding. And then when you come out to here and you have your total here and your total here, the total of part 1 plus the total of part 2 is going to give you your mixture total. So what that looks like then as an equation is we come down here and we say, okay, part 1 is the cost or the percent multiplied by the amount. And then we will add to it, kind of like I was mentioning here, we'll add to it the part 2, the cost or percent times the amount, and that will equal the cost percent of the mixture. And then you just solve accordingly based on where your variables are. Get all of your variables on one side, get all of your non-variables on the other, and then just go from there. Right? So let's take a look at an example here. It says John wants to create a coffee blend that sells for $5.70 per pound by mixing 30 pounds of a coffee that sells for $7 per pound and a coffee that sells for $4.25 per pound. How much of the $4.25 per pound coffee does John need in order to create his $5.75 per pound blend? Okay, so the first part is we have this $5, or apologies, we have this $7 blend or coffee. And it tells us here that we have 30 pounds of a coffee that sells for $7 per pound. So the cost of this is $7. And it says we have 30 pounds of it. That's our amount. And so we could find out that we have 7 times 30, which is, so 7 times 30 is $210 worth of this $7 coffee. Now it says they want to mix it, or John wants to mix it, with a coffee that sells for $4.25 per pound. So our other one is $4.25 coffee. The cost is $4.25. It kind of sounds redundant, but just the way we're labeling it. And we don't know how much we have of it. It actually asks us how much. So that's usually where we put in our variable. So let's put in C for coffee. And so then we have $4.25 times C is just 4.25 C. Now our mixture is this $5.75 blend. And so again, the cost of that is $5.75. Now, as I mentioned above here, if we have 30 pounds here, we have C pounds here, we're going to add these together and we get 30 plus C. Because if we're putting in 30 pounds of our $7 coffee and we're putting in C pounds of our $4.25 coffee, when we put them all together into this blend, we're going to have 30 pounds plus whatever we've added of the 425. And then from here we multiply across and we get 5.75 times 30 plus C. Notice how I put the 30 plus C in parentheses, because the $5.75 needs to go to the 30 and it needs to go to the C. So when we take and we multiply that through, $5.75 times 30 is $172.50 plus 5.75 C. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go to our equation here. So we just need to fill in what we know. So the cost and the amount, so the cost times the amount, which we actually have right here, is $210, plus the cost and the amount of part 2, which is this 4.25C, equals the cost times amount of the mixture, which is $172.50 plus 5.75C. So from here, we don't need our table anymore. We can just come and we can solve. So we need to isolate our variable term. So get all of our variables. We'll get them all over on the right hand side. It technically doesn't matter, but just so we're dealing with positive numbers. 5.75 minus 4.25 is 1.50. We don't need that 0 technically, but that's alright. So we have 172.50 here. These cancel and we're left with 210 on the left hand side. Now if we take 172.50 and we subtract it from both sides, 172.50, we're going to add in these place values so we don't forget. When we take 210, we take 172.50 away, we get 37.5 equals, those cancel, 1.5 C, and then when we divide both sides by 1.5 or 1.50 or 1 and 50 hundredths, we get 25 pounds. And so what this says is that C, if we actually look back up here, C is our amount of $4.25 coffee. So then when we come down here, we have 25 pounds of the $4.25 per pound coffee. So hopefully this video was helpful for you in terms of just kind of seeing the general setup for these kinds of mixture problems. I would recommend a table. You don't need one, but it just helps you organize kind of your thinking and your work, and So hopefully that was helpful to you in terms of finding a way to get it all set up and how all that information kind of fits in. So if you have any questions, you can ask. Thanks for watching.